Robby Krieger was playing around with this flamenco guitar riff called Asturias, which is like a classical guitar figure, and it became Spanish Caravan. Manzarek hopped aboard that, you know, they turned it into this kind of, you know, flamenco epic. I mean, that was Doors' creativity, nothing to do with Gin though. Doors' creativity between the three.
This is the first time in a Doors song that I've heard Robby Krieger go outside of a country style lick, a blues lick or a jazz lick. Was the intro to Spanish Caravan. This flamingo style, very different. I get goosebumps every time I hear this. I've heard many other bands steal this incredible piece from you, as you probably did in a roundabout way, was influenced from somebody else in order to play this piece. Almost the first time I've heard Robby Krieger get dirty with his sound. This is just, and I couldn't get enough of it. I just wish he had layered another track of this on top of it, just to help the song as it went along from this delicious psychedelic sound.
And in true Doors fashion, it really starts to electrify. Maybe you can compare it to a folk band like the Byrds or Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. But the way it starts surprises everyone, and then all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, it's the Doors, because it finally electrifies.
Spanish Caravan, see, this is where the Doors kind of lose me. Some of these slow songs with, it's basically poetry over top of some kind of musical background. A little bit hard to listen to. Maybe it made sense in the 60s, in 1968. It's kind of hard to go back and wrap your head around what songs like that's all about these days, I find anyways.
Spanish Caravan was pilloried by, I think it was the L.A. Free Press, as being perhaps the worst lyric of any rock song they'd ever heard. So I think everyone was aware by the time that Waiting for the Sun had been issued and reviewed, and generally in a downbeat fashion, that something was going to have to change. So the Doors saw that and they made the changes.
In terms of a sound, the Doors seemed to me to be another one of those bands that really had that niche, that really unique sound, sounded unlike anyone else. Sure, they came out of the late 60s psychedelic era, but no one else sounded like the Doors, and for two reasons. I guess Jim Morrison's voice was unlike anyone else in rock and roll, more like a crooner than a rocker, and the combination of that keyboard that no one sounded like. You know, Ray Manzarek's keyboard was so unique.
Ray Manzarek was the musical backbone of the Doors to many people. He had a very distinctive style, and part of that was using his left hand to play the bass notes without a proper bass player until the very end of the band. Somebody needed to be holding down the bottom end. Didn't always work too well because the equipment of the time and the amplification of the time weren't working with him. But clearly the kind of playing that he contributed to the Doors was very much a part of the sound, and I think any other keyboard player there would have had a job making the same impact that he did.
Someone who brought the keyboard to the limelight in a band, whereas usually before they've, you know, keyboard players or organ players have always been sort of standing in the background while the guitar players and bass players and everyone have been up front. But he was the one who was like, well, listen to me, I'm playing the riffs here. Don't worry about any of the others. I'm the one who's got the hooks to all the songs and everything. You know, an incredible musician and really knew how to play the organ. And there's been no one else like him really who's ever done anything like that, you know, with that instrument since.
Ray believed that the rhythm was the center of everything, which is what he provided, and without rhythm, you had nothing.
I believe that the strongest musicians there was Ray Manzarek first. Very tasty keyboards and different tones. I think that he must have had a lot of input in helping the producers and convincing the record company that this is the type of stuff that people should be listening to. I honestly believe that they were able to control their volumes to be able to put out these records that were absolutely clean. You could hear every note, everything was in tune. I found that the guitar player, Robby Krieger, he too was very clean. He also must have spent some time being able to intertwine his guitar work with the keyboard work, maybe accenting together at times and other times playing between each other.
Robby Krieger was just a great, solid guitar player, but probably doesn't get the applause he should for his lyrics. A lot of people think Jim Morrison was the main lyric writer. He was the poet of the band, but on a couple of the albums, Krieger really did shine as a main songwriter.
The bottleneck slide and the tone of Robby Krieger as a guitarist, again, unique in rock and roll in the latter part of the 1960s. Nobody really had a sound like that. Simplistic, yet complicated at the same time.
Robby insisted on getting a wine bottle and breaking the end off to slide up and down the strings. Unfortunately, Jim would drink the wine, before the show.
The best ones, I believe, were those cheap champagne bottles like Charles Krieger, and you just you put a rag on the neck and hit it with a hammer. And sometimes you got lucky and it would be perfect. And other times it would be kind of jagged, like the one on the show that was a quickie, so I didn't have time to file the edges down.
You know what, Krieger probably won't rate as one of the best guitar players of all time, but I think he really did the job that was needed with that band. I don't think he could have put, Eric Clapton in that band and he'd be out there doing his thing and it just wouldn't work at all. I think what Krieger brought to the band was, like I say, sort of just spice. He dropped things in when he felt necessary. I don't think he was a very confident guitar player, and I think that's sort of where it came from. He sort of played when he felt comfortable almost, but as songs got structured and put together, it all seemed to work somehow.
Hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name? Hello, I love you, let me jump in your game.
The drummer, he was the backbeat. He did a few tasty things. I don't think he was as strong as the other two.
When you listen to their live stuff and the fact that with Morrison, you never really knew what he was going to do next. So you listen to Densmore's drumming and he's constantly keeping the same beat. And then Morrison may scream and then go into a song without any kind of warning. And I mean, if you've ever been in a band, you know you need that sort of warning, or you need a count-in or something. And he's always on cue. So you got to give him credit for that. He was really paying attention and listening, and could keep a steady beat through all their songs.
Tell me your name. Hello, I love you, let me jump in your game.
Any drummer playing with the Doors would have to be able to drive them on when they were driving, lay back when Jim Morrison was having one of his rants. The Doors' music had a lot of peaks and troughs, so a drummer would have to listen very carefully to what was going on and basically fit in with the style, unlike, say, Status Quo, where you'd be playing 4/4 straight ahead boogie all the way through the song. So John Densmore was a drummer who basically could rock when he needed to rock, lay back when he needed to lay back, a few jazzy touches here and there. So perhaps he didn't need to be an all-round virtuoso.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah.
But the input is very strong from all three of them, And my hat is off to them, because I really do think that these guys were very, very in tune with each other.
It's funny, people tend to always look at the Doors as being sort of Jim Morrison's vehicle, so I think maybe the other musicians got a bit of a short shift, because the record companies and the teen magazines really pushed Jim Morrison up to be more than what he was, and I don't really think he really was pleased with that image. I think he sort of saw the band at the beginning anyway as a unit, and that he shouldn't actually be the superstar, although it was hard not to be with his stage performance and stuff like that. But I think that definitely they've influenced a lot of people with their style of playing, and I think as the years go by and they find more live footage of them, I think you're finding a lot more contemporary musicians and rock musicians really appreciating the kind of music that they were developing and doing at the time. They were real innovators for their time.